Once I hit my 30s, something changed when it comes to how I play and enjoy video games. You see, when I was a kid, I always imagined how awesome it would be to finally have my own money one day. I wanted to buy more games, more consoles, and maybe even build my own gaming PC someday. I grew up in one of those households where my parents never entertained the idea of me having more than one gaming system at a time. They just couldn't possibly understand why you would need more than one. So with each new generation, I had to think very carefully about which console I wanted to bring home. New games pretty much only happened at birthdays or Christmas and the occasional Blockbuster rental, to go ahead and age myself a bit there. But over the past 10, even 15 years as an adult gamer, I felt myself getting more and more overwhelmed, mainly by the ever-growing backlog. But then you also have new games, new systems, subscription services, more options than ever before. Then we have all these free-to-play, multiplayer games, which these days want you to spend all your time with them and only them. So much so that it almost becomes like a second job. So why do so many of us run into this wall where even picking which games to play feels like a chore? I mean, how many of you have spent an entire workday thinking about the games you want to play when you get home, only to end up scrolling through social media instead when the time finally comes? That's not just me, right? And then for the times when you do make a choice on what game to play, why do we find ourselves feeling sometimes less satisfied with gaming, especially compared to when we were kids? Of course, we all know that gaming changes as you get older. The games have certainly changed, the ways we play have changed, and probably most importantly, we have changed. Now, you might think this is just about getting older, having less time, and more responsibilities. Those things definitely play a part, a big part. But I've been thinking about this so much lately, and I'm starting to think that there's actually a much bigger reason that we both struggle with what to play and even start getting less enjoyment from the hobby that we love when we do decide to play something. So I started actually doing some research, trying to find answers on this. Could it be that one of the biggest issues keeping us from enjoying games as adults is actually the choice itself, both the choice to play a game plus the choice of which game to play? Turns out this is exactly what a lot of research shows. Now, how can that be, right? Because having choices should be a good thing. It's what I wanted when I was a kid, to be able to buy more games and have more consoles and a PC to play those games. You see, having more choices gives us all the freedom in the world to make our own decisions. It would seem that we should be able to maximize our sense of freedom by having more choices. More freedom then should, in theory, lead to us feeling better, feeling more in control. But are all of those assumptions actually true? A psychologist by the name of Barry Schwartz doesn't think so. He's dedicated his life to studying this very subject, not specifically related to video games, but the paradox of choice, which is the title of a book he published in 2004. Now, in this book, he argues that some choice is very important. In fact, it's essential for our well-being. Having too many choices, on the other hand, actually brings along two very crucial negative side effects. The first is paralysis instead of liberation. If we're overwhelmed by the options, then we become paralyzed and struggle to make a decision. The other negative side effect is that after we finally do make the decision, we can actually end up less satisfied than if we'd had fewer options beforehand. Schwartz says that these imagined alternatives can actually induce regret with our decision. This regret actually subtracts from the satisfaction that we would get from making the choice, even if it happens to be a good decision. Turns out, with so many options on the table, our expectations about how good something will be actually go up. So with access to thousands of games, we expect to find the perfect game for every mood, every moment, every specific craving. No matter what game we choose to play, there will always be something potentially better in our backlog, creating a near constant state of dissatisfaction. Now, the big question that this always leads to then, of course, is, well, how many choices is the right amount of choices? And unfortunately, there's no easy answer here. Back in 2000, researchers set up jam tasting booths in a grocery store. Some days they offered 24 different flavors to try, other days just 6. Now, the big display with 24 jams attracted way more people. About 60% of shoppers stopped to taste. The smaller display with just 6 jams, only 40% stopped. When it came to actually buying the jam, this is where it gets interesting. You see, the smaller display actually led to more sales. Out of everyone who tried that 24 jam display, only 3% made a purchase. But from the 6 jam display, 30% decided to buy. That's 10 times more sales with 18 fewer options. Think about that for a second. More choice attracted more attention, but it completely paralyzed people when it came to actually making a decision. Is this starting to sound familiar yet? You see, we assume that more choice equals more freedom and thus more happiness. But past a certain point, more options actually make us less happy. And this isn't just about different flavors of jam. It's everywhere. Netflix has done some research showing that if users spend more than 90 seconds without finding something, they're far more likely to close the app and do something else entirely. 90 seconds. Dating apps have created the same problem with relationships. People report being less satisfied and are more likely to break up as their dating options go up. I guess the general idea here is that when you believe there's always something better available, it's harder to fully commit to what's in front of you. Now, you can probably already start to see some ways that this actually relates to gaming, how it even amplifies this problem for us in some very unique ways. As adults, we've replaced that natural sense of wonder that we had as a kid with endless evaluation. Instead of losing ourselves in a game world, we're obsessed with making the right choice. Is this the best use of my limited gaming time? Am I progressing efficiently? Should I be playing something else actually? We've turned picking a game into this high-stakes decision where we're constantly worried about wasting our precious free time. Of course, we never did this as kids. We just picked something and played it. I would get maybe 2 or 3 games for Christmas and maybe 2 or 3 games for a birthday, and then those were the games that had to hold me through the entire year. I wasn't constantly wondering if I had made the right choice. I wasn't paralyzed by FOMO about other games that I could be playing. I also wasn't browsing reviews and forums to fully maximize my experience with each game. And then don't even get me started on all the technical options that we have these days, especially when it comes to things like getting the best performance and frame rate out of every single game you play. Now sure, we remember old games fondly, partly because of the associations with our youth. The nostalgia is absolutely strong. But I think you could make a good case that those games existed in a context of scarcity for many of us, and that actually enhanced our appreciation of them. When you only got a few games per year, every single one of them mattered. You approached each new game with genuine excitement and commitment. The constraint of that limited choice created a deeper, more focused relationship with each individual game. Now we can have immediate access to hundreds of games on your platform of choice with just a single monthly subscription. Of course, the industry itself has also exploded in scale since the 90s. We're now looking at thousands upon thousands of games released each year across consoles, PC, and mobile devices. And remember, as we get older and have more disposable income, that in and of itself actually increases the choices available to us. These days, every single gaming session we have begins with a decision. First of all, should you play the game at all, given all the other things you could be doing? And then if you do decide to play, what should you play? That decision has become increasingly complex year after year. This decision fatigue, more often than not, leads us to decision avoidance, which is choosing not to choose at all. Instead of wrestling with these options, we find ourselves gravitating toward passive entertainment where no decisions are required. We scroll through TikTok, watch YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels, or even X because these platforms have algorithms to make the choices for us. All we have to do is scroll over and over and over again. Now, the irony here, to me at least, is crushing. We have access to more incredible games than ever before. Even if you don't think the games of today are great, think about all the games in your backlog from 5, 10 years in the past that you could be getting to. Yet we're choosing not to play them because choosing itself has become so exhausting. I can actually see this pattern so clearly in my own gaming habits. I have Red Dead Redemption 2, a masterpiece that I genuinely enjoyed for the 30 or so hours that I played, but it's been sitting unfinished. Same with Ghost of Tsushima, an absolutely gorgeous game I started with enthusiasm but never completed. Even Baldur's Gate 3, which I know is exceptional, sits partially played in my library. The problem isn't the quality, of course, it's the quantity. When you know you have dozens of other incredible experiences waiting, it becomes harder to commit to any single one of them. I can't remember where I saw this quote, but it was something to the effect of when you have 2 seemingly equal choices, just make the choice and then make it the right choice and how you follow up with it. And I honestly think we need to do more of that when it comes to the games we play. I think this decision fatigue is why so many adult gamers actually start gravitating toward multiplayer experiences. Think about it. If you find an MMO or a competitive shooter that you really enjoy, that nightly decision of what to play becomes super easy. These games essentially solve multiple problems for us at once. They eliminate this choice paralysis. When you're invested in a live service game, you're not choosing between hundreds of options every night. You're logging into your world where there's always something new to grind for or another battle pass to complete. They also reduce risk. You already know that you're going to enjoy the core gameplay loop, so each session has a very predictable level of satisfaction. There's less risk of wasting your evening on something that might disappoint you. And trust me, the publishers have absolutely started catching on to this. They're actively trying to take advantage of this. It's why games like Fortnite, Roblox, Minecraft, countless others, they aren't even just games anymore. They've morphed into something else entirely. Something that's much closer to a platform or an entire ecosystem opposed to a single gameplay experience like the games we grew up with. This also explains why it's so difficult to pull those players away from those ecosystems once they're invested. Sure, the social connections and progression systems all play a big role here, but it's also that relief from decision fatigue and just the fear of disappointment being removed. When you already know a game that you enjoy and there's always new content to chase, the paralysis of choice disappears. As kids, of course, we approached new games with pure excitement and curiosity. We didn't worry about wasting time or money because we had no real concept of this opportunity cost. We just dove in head first, open to whatever the experience offered. And trust me, I say this as someone who convinced myself that Star Wars Jedi Power Battles was actually a good game. As adults, our risk-averse brains ask different questions. What if this game isn't worth my limited time? What if I don't like it and feel like I wasted my money? What if I start this 100-hour RPG and never finish it? Now, there's another book that I think is also relevant here. It's called The Happiness Equation. And this talks about how we consistently postpone joy until we think the conditions are perfect. So for gamers, this manifests as an endless series of excuses. I'll start that big RPG when I have a full weekend to dedicate to it. Or maybe I'll get into that series once I finish my current backlog. The truth, of course, is that perfect gaming moment that you're waiting for will likely never come. There will always be another game in the backlog, another upgrade you could make, and always more demands on your time. We postpone starting games because we want to make the perfect choice rather than just choosing something good enough and diving in. What we're actually doing is we're putting off happiness today in pursuit of optimal happiness tomorrow. And unfortunately, we end up with neither. So what, if anything, can we do about all this? Are we just forever locked into this constant state of indecision and disappointment when we finally do pick a game to play? I don't think so. I actually think there are a few different things we can try to start enjoying games even the same way we did when we were kids. The idea actually came to me with the recent launch of the Nintendo Switch 2. Now, while I've always loved Nintendo for most of my adult life, PlayStation has been my console of choice. I also built a gaming PC in recent years and have plenty of retro consoles and handhelds that I could play at any time. Now, with the launch of the Switch 2, things shifted a bit for me. For the first 3 months of the system's launch, I didn't play any PS5 games at all. I was only focused on the Switch 2 and games specifically for the new console. And so what this did is it actually placed a restraint on the games that were available to me. With a new system, obviously I was focused on new games like Mario Kart World and Donkey Kong Bonanza. Now, when the Switch 2 first came out, I was playing so much Mario Kart World with my kids, but I wanted something to play solo as well. I thought, why not check out the eShop and see if there are any sales, and that's when I came across No Man's Sky. It's a game I'd always been interested in, but had never found what I thought would be the perfect time to jump in. Well, when I saw that it was on sale at the Switch 2's launch, I actually remembered a post from Sean Murray where he mentioned a free update to a Switch 2 version of the game. So all those factors coming together were enough to get me to buy the game, and I'm so glad I did. I've been having a blast with it. That purchase only happened because of the limitations that I'd placed on my next gaming purchase. I was looking for something on the Switch 2, on sale, and preferably something that had gotten an update to take advantage of the Switch 2 hardware. No Man's Sky was the perfect fit and is now a game that I can check off my list of finally having played it. So that's actually my first tip of things that I think you can try. Pick a platform and stick to that ecosystem, at least for a time. I'm not saying you have to go out and sell all your other systems, but even if you just take, say, a month where you only focus on PC games, and then another month where you only focus on Switch 2 games. This would actually help make the choice about what to play that much easier. And if I'm being totally honest with myself, I think I actually might be happier if I did fully commit to just one platform and then ignore all the others. But I don't think I'm quite ready to take that step just yet. The next idea, though, is one that I'm definitely thinking about trying for next year. I'm calling it the 12-game challenge. The idea here is to create a list of exactly 12 games that you want to complete in a single year, and then just focus on completing one per month. If you want to complete more in a month, sure, go for it. But once you write this list down, you can't add to it until you finished all 12 of those games, or at least played enough to realize that, hey, this is not for me. So this actually recreates that scarcity mindset that I think made childhood gaming a bit more special. You're not choosing between hundreds or thousands of options, you're choosing between 12 carefully curated experiences. And those 12 games don't need to be the absolute best games ever made, they just need to be games that you think you'll enjoy. Now, if you like the idea of a 12-game challenge, I think you could take it a step further with this next idea, and that's no new games. 6 months, a year, 2 years, how long do you think you could go without buying any new games? I mean, hey, with games getting more and more expensive, this would actually be a great opportunity to save a little money and still keep up with your hobby. What if you had just an entire year set aside to only focus on your gaming backlog, saying, I'm not going to buy any new games whatsoever? This would eliminate that constant temptation of new releases and forces you to engage with your existing library instead. My expectation is that we would start to find joy in what we already have rather than constantly having to seek it out in new games. Another step you can take is to cancel all your gaming subscriptions. No Game Pass, no PlayStation Plus, no Nintendo Online. When you're not constantly getting new free games, you'll be more motivated to play the ones that you already bought. You know, sometimes when we get too much of something, we actually end up valuing each individual piece less. If you know that you have access to all these games at any given time, it doesn't give you any kind of push to actually play them. And this is a phenomenon that I actually started noticing when it comes to subscription services. It's just such a different feeling from actually walking into a store and buying a physical copy of a game in your hands and taking it home specifically to play that game. On a subscription service, you'll be thinking, hey, I can get around to it later. Maybe wait for just the right time. Again, always looking for that perfect moment. Now, another thing you could do is take this same idea, but in reverse. You could have a few months set aside where you only play the games on these subscription services. This could actually be a way to make not buying any new games a bit easier. The final tip here is one I'm going to try and implement immediately, and I actually think it is the most important one of all. I'm going to make a very conscious choice, a specific decision to replace my mindless social media scrolling with intentional gaming instead. The next time you feel the urge to scroll through TikTok, commit to playing a game instead. Start with something that you can play in short bursts, maybe a puzzle game or something arcade style. The goal is to try and retrain our brains so that we start to see gaming as our default leisure activity rather than mindlessly scrolling social media. Games are way more interactive, and let's be honest, deep down, we know they're much more rewarding. So if you've been feeling overwhelmed by the choice of all the games out there, give these things a try and let me know what you think. As always, thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to you again soon.